Would you look at the time? Patch note time. Potion of Speed update coming in Total War Warhammer 2 alongside the Shadow and the Blade DLC on Thursday, December 12th. And we've got a lot to jump into. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I've got to say, overall, I think this is one of the better patches CA have released in quite a while. There are plenty of gripes to be had with the fact that we only get patches or hotfixes 3 or 4 times a year. With that said, this is a really damn good overhaul to the game. There are some amazing quality of life changes, and I think we should all be pretty excited for what's happening for Warhammer 2. Now, the first thing is the Legendary Lord's Portrait Overhaul, and for the most part, I am quite in love with the aesthetic and changes here we're getting. I mean, on the left side, this is the old style. On the right side, this is the new, and with a couple of exceptions like Grimgor and Sigvald. Grimgor, I don't know what happened there. Sigvald, his chin game strong, looking like Prince Farquaad, and I don't know. I feel like those two maybe probably could have been done a little bit better, but for the most part, quite happy with how these Legendary Lord portraits are looking. Malekith Marathi looking fantastic. We got Thorgrim Grudgebearer looking pretty worried, and he should be because the Deathmaster's coming for his head. But for the most part, yeah, I'm liking this change a lot. This is kind of like, I mean, these accurately reflect what they look like in-game. Some of these maybe not quite as much, but pretty good. Pretty good overall. I like that Gorse one. Okay, so I think the biggest thing coming in the Shadow and the Blade patch are the end turn time reductions, and these are incredible. Like, I was not of the mind that we would get a change like this until Total War Warhammer 3. I didn't know it would even be possible. I figured maybe there could be a little bit of optimizations here or there, but this isn't optimization. When you think optimization, you think, okay, it's gonna be like a little incremental change, maybe a couple seconds here or there. No, this is a complete overhaul. So end turn times used to take me, I don't know, by the time I got to turn 50, 60, it would probably be taking me upwards of a minute. They're now like 20 seconds, 25 seconds tops. In Vortex, it's less than 10 seconds. That's incredible. That is incredible. It makes Mortal Empires so much more playable. I never wanted to play it before. My biggest issue with Mortal Empires was not what's actually been done with the gameplay or the campaign map. It was the fact that it took me forever to do anything. I could do 50 push-ups in a couple of turns. Now I don't have to worry about that. Now I can just be fat and play the game. It's great. I like it a lot. For the faction naming changes, I also like the portraits, like the majority of these. A couple of them I have issues with. Empire to Reichland, great. Dwarfs to Karazak, great. Although I wouldn't mind if there was a situation where you start out as maybe like just maybe not dwarfs, but you start out as like a sub-faction, and then once you've united the World's Edge Mountains, then you become Karazak. But I guess the thinking here is that, hey, you're going to unite it anyway. Most people win their campaigns, so I like it. I don't like Black Crag. I think that this should probably be like Grimgor's Wa or Azhag's Wa or something that's more closely tied to who the Lord is you're playing. Because Black Crag, I mean, Azhag's is actually going to be called Black Crag now, I just realized, which is dumb. I can't wait till he gets his own star position. Hopefully that comes in the Greenskins update at the beginning of next year. We've actually seen evidence of that being on Steam DB. So Eltharion the Grim, Grom the Punch, hopefully reworked to the Greenskins Overhaul, and Azhag getting moved to the Black Venom tribe or maybe a different tribe would be pretty good. But yeah, Black Crag, it has nothing to do with Grimgor. It has nothing to do with Azhag. Yes, it's your starting province, your capital, but that is kind of the issue I have with a couple of these, is that they just named the faction as their capital city, even though it doesn't make that much sense. Like, Luther Harkin should be Vampire Coast. He should not be the Awakened. That's just naming it the capital city. I don't like that. Bretonia to Corone, I'm fine with. Tolson, this is the King's Glade, makes sense. World Walkers, it's fine. Most of them I'm pretty happy with, but yeah, Black Crag, Awakened, I feel like they could have been a little bit more creative, and some of them I just don't think needed to be changed at all. But this has been a complaint of a lot of people, so Empire to Reichland, all that's good. Gotrek and Felix. Previously, they would kind of just be a black hole of your XP, which was annoying. And now, they'll actually spread that out to other of your lords. So even though you only have them for 30 turns, they aren't just going to take that XP and run away when they leave. It'll be going to everybody else, which is good. Increase their duration from, I think, it was 20 before, now I think it's 30. And they are exempted from supply lines, which is also good because a lot of factions, when you make your third or fourth army, starts getting prohibitively expensive until your economy really takes off. So the fact that they're not going to be increasing your upkeep of all your armies is a pretty nice change. And let's see. Yeah, okay, that's good stuff. So for campaign balance changes, there are a couple that are really cool, and I actually want to go down here first because this one has me really excited. I wasn't expecting this. This is essentially a complete Clan Pestilens Overhaul. Tweaks doesn't really quite do it justice. These are really good. This gives them their own playstyle and kind of fixes a few of their issues. So you now have a much heavier emphasis on spreading disease, which makes sense for a great Skaven clan led by an Arch Plague Lord Nurglich and Lord Skrolk. And these kind of changes are the things that I really love seeing in a patch because it makes a sub-faction feel like their own unique faction. I mean, they've got unique gameplay mechanics now and a lot of fluffy additions to their playthrough. So, for example, now just passively, just by being near enemy settlements, by interacting with other factions, you've got a chance of spreading plague by 50%. You've got a huge cooldown reduction on the Rite of Pestilence, again for spreading plague, and now when you spread these diseases everywhere, you're going to be in a situation where you get huge benefits to your own forces, your own cities. You get growth, economic benefits, and powerful combat bonuses on the battlefield as well. So this perfectly fits what Clan Pestilens is all about. Not a change I was expecting to see in the Shadow and the Blade. I thought we'd be focusing mostly on Clan Ashen, but this is exactly why the Lizardmen needed the rise of Sotek and the Red Crescent Skinks to kick Pestilens off the continent, to get them out of Lustria. Because before that, all this disease, all this plague, it wasn't really, I mean, it was destroying their civilization, essentially. It was wrecking their source, it was wrecking their temple cities, and now, I mean, this is actually reflected in their playstyle, which is perfect. So if we go back up here, there's some also really important changes for the Cult of Sotek, who we just talked about, to Hedowin, now going to be getting more sacrifices that will scale upwards the stronger your enemy army is. So one of the issues he had before with his unique quote-unquote campaign mechanic that really nobody liked was that you just didn't have enough of his unique mechanic. You couldn't get enough sacrifices to unlock things quickly and get into a good groove. So now when you beat bigger armies, you're going to be getting more, no longer capped at 50, and so you'll be able to progress a lot quicker at a much faster pace. That's a pretty good change. Bretonnian heroes now gain immortality when achieving a Grail vow. Really like that. And huge economic rework for the Skaven. Now this is quite clearly increased scaling and base income of all buildings, remove tier 1 and tier 2 energy building, and reduced effect to 30, 40, 50% from 80, 90, 100%. So yeah, that building was pretty OP. It could make your economy take off like crazy. Probably, well, you're not going to be getting an obscene economy anymore, at least not super early on. I've seen quite a few playthroughs where people were rocking, I don't know, like Lothern-style economies or Nagaron-style economies, slave economies, dark elf economies, and entrepreneur high elf-based economies, that kind of thing. We're talking like thousands upon thousands in your capital city. Seems like this will nerf that a bit, but the scaling is better, your base income is better, so probably just normalizing it. But yeah, your economy won't take off quite in the way that it could when you were rocking these kind of bonuses. I like this change here. Huge. So I mean, we're talking 5 of the best casters in Warhammer Fantasy. Teclis is top 5 for sure. Kroak is arguably the strongest magical being in Warhammer Fantasy. Only one missing there really is Nagash and maybe Kairos Fateweaver. So yeah, these all getting greater Arcane Conduit. Long overdue. Happy to see it. Won't lose his bound Fireball either. Yeah, I mean, Marathi, Kroak, Mazdamundi, Slan Lords, Teclis, all those definitely deserve greater Arcane Conduit. This is the passive one that gives you a massive bonus to both your recharge rate and your Winds of Magic pool. And it's not active, it's just completely passive. Just does it itself. You don't have to hit the button. Okay. Dread Spears moved. A couple of these I'm a little nervous of. So, looking at the patch notes by itself, it seems rather innocuous. But I did, and I've only seen it once so far, so I'm not freaking out about it yet, but in my Malice Darkblade campaign into part 4, you're going to see that there's a dwarf stack that only has miners. Only. It's got about 15 or so units of miners, and that's it. Just the regular minor variant, not even blasting charges. I'm hoping I'm not about to run into a Dawi Tide that is entirely minor spam. I'm sure it's not. It's probably just a one-off. But moving some of this to the settlement chain means that if they don't have recruitment buildings, they're just going to spam one unit, which could get old real quick if the AI is not prioritizing their buildings correctly. So hopefully don't run into that too much, but it's a teeny bit scary. Black Arc rework. Now, Creative Assembly, please, can we get Loki or Fellheart with a Vampire Coast style Black Arc? One that he can actually ride around his own personal pimp mobile to invade the old and new world alike with. It's long overdue. It would have been a really nice change. I don't know how difficult it is for them to do, but I don't know how many more updates the Dark Elves are going to be getting. Feels like if you're going to be doing a full Clan Pestilens rework the way they did in this patch, might have been a good time to add that for Loki, and the fact that it didn't make it into the Shadow and the Blade patch makes me think maybe they don't have any plans for it whatsoever. I think both Wolfric, honestly, and Loki or Fellheart would really benefit tremendously from having their own unique ship that they can use the shipbuilding from Vampire Coast. And I guess Alberic, they board low, would be useful as well, but he's free LC, so I guess I don't expect that quite as much. And to be fair, Loki or Fellheart was too, so maybe that's just what their plan is. But Black Arcs, they can now level up. They can now have full characters that get all their item skills, all that stuff. Oh, actually in old saves they'll convert. That's pretty cool. That's a nice change. And yeah, I mean, Black Arcs in general, they're just better now. And they can actually invade ports and help reinforce, which is cool. Now, if you're Malice Darkblade, you aren't going to get that much use out of the Black Arc in the bottom southeast corner of the map because that ocean there is not very big at the moment. In Game 3, I imagine that will expand. When you get to the Mountains of Morn, and hell, if they go all the way to Cathay, then yeah, you'll have a lot more room to maneuver and probably a lot more coastal settlements down there, but there aren't too many at the moment because that whole area of the map isn't quite as fleshed out as it will be in Total War Warhammer 3. Hidden items. These have been a topic of debate for a very long time. A lot of people didn't know how to unlock these items because they just don't show up on the skill tree. They don't know. I mean, how are you supposed to know how to get the Armor of Midnight or the Amulet of Dark Fire if it's not showing up on your skill tree? You just have to Google it and hope that someone else has figured out the requirements. Now, they will show up. They'll be visible on the skill tree, and they will trigger at a specified level instead of randomly generating. Huge. And there are a lot of people who love collecting these kind of things, so it's a really nice quality of life change. Campaign exclusive units, you've seen these in action already. Kihar the Tormentor, Azric the Maze Keeper. For Norska, no, you're not going to be getting the Monster Hunt units, but there are the Skaven Lab units. There are the Electric Count units. There are a lot of cool stuff to play with in custom battle. You cannot take them into ranked. I've had a couple people freak out and say, oh my god, they're ruining ranked battles with these. No, they don't show up in ranked battles whatsoever. It's only custom, it's only for fun, and it's only when unit caps are disabled. So I don't think you have to worry about those ruining your free-for-alls. As long as you have unit caps enabled, people won't be able to roll in with the crazy OP stuff. But there are a few that are OP, but for the most part, I actually think CA has done a pretty good job of balancing them. For Azric the Maze Keeper and Kihar the Tormentor, for example, two of the heroes for Norska that I've used in battle so far, they're relatively well balanced, and they're kind of in line with what you'd expect to see from the rest of the game. So I think that's a pretty cool change, because people like using the stuff that's in the game, right? I don't want to have to use mods to be able to access some of that stuff. To have that in custom battle whenever I want is pretty great. So if you've been watching mine or some of the other content creators' Malice Darkblade playthroughs, you might have been a little bit worried that Zarkan is just talking all the time and constantly in your ear like a nagging grandma. Thankfully, that seems to have been addressed to an extent. I've noticed in Part 3 and Part 4, Zarkan is yelling much less, which is good, because if I'm in the middle of commentary, I don't want to be inundated with screams from an annoying demon at the edges of my screen. So that's going to be a pretty good change, not have him in my ear 24/7, 365. And moving on, we've got battle balance changes, and there are some interesting ones on the way. So knockdowns are getting reworked, and this has been an issue for quite a while in quite a numerous amount of facets. I mean, we've seen Footlords have their own knockdown issues. We've seen Al Gorbel go flying over the moon whenever he charges in, and with him, it was never really about mass. It was more about the fact that his animations allow him to get knocked around like crazy. So his mass has been buffed many times over. His mass is fine. When Al Gorbel does his diving attack forward, though, his roll, it seems like anything that has higher mass is able to knock him flying. But I've seen Gorbels land on the ground and stay on the ground for 3, 4, 5 seconds at a time, and that is a lot of really important time to be spending on the ground when it could be coming down to a duel, and whoever wins that wins a battle. So this has been reworked somewhat, so when a unit is knocked down, it enters a knockdown idle state, and then it would take a roll between 0.7 and 2 seconds, and it would randomly generate how long they stay down, but it would be multiplied by another factor if they had more armor. So in practical terms, it would get 0.5 seconds added to its knockdown timer for every 25 armor it had, which meant heavier armor, you're on the ground for longer, and you're out of action, which isn't great. I mean, if I'm paying a bunch of money for chosen halberds, who do have great mass, but if they get knocked down and then they're sitting on the ground for 5 seconds, that's a lot of time they could be beating on the monster, and instead they're not. So this was probably pretty detrimental to chosen halberds or Phoenix Guard or Black Guard, who should have been beating up on monsters but are instead getting tossed around and then not rushing back into fight. So this could be a reason why cycle charging, for not fully, but it could be part of the reason why cycle charging with single entity monsters has been so powerful. So they're reverting some of that. They're making sure that armor is now removed from the calculation, and knockdown time is only determined by the roll, which means that heavily armored stuff will be getting up much faster and spending less time sleeping on the ground, which is good. Now, improved slash damage for a lot of lords. Okay, not super worried about that. I don't really know in practical terms what that will mean. I mean, they'll be more effective when fighting on foot. Only on foot units have, okay. So yeah, I mean, they'll be more effective on foot, but to what extent, don't really know. I don't think we'll ever know, even when we test it. There's no way to really see how much better they'll be, but a good change. I mean, anything that buffs up foot lords is probably going to be good overall. But unit balance changes. These always are interesting, and I'm loving this. Minotaurs, however you want to say it, minus 100 cost for all 3 variants. I love this unit from an aesthetics perspective. I love them from a gameplay perspective, but in terms of actual practical application, in multiplayer, in campaign, they're amazing. I mean, rocking a full minibus is very much viable, but in multiplayer, they're relatively niche. I mean, you're not going to be seeing a whole lot of them on the battlefield. You're never going to be seeing more than like 1 or 2, and even 2 a lot of times is probably going to be a little bit too much. So anything that buffs them up a bit, pretty good. I mean, the biggest factor, of course, is that they have pretty low armor, so they die in droves to missile fire and focus fire and all that. So glad to see that their cost is being reduced a bit, bringing them back in line with some of the other monsters. I mean, if you compare like Minotaurs with Fimir, like Fimir just blow them out of the water in a lot of ways. Just way higher armor, better missile resist, armor sundering. Like, they're exactly what you want out of monstrous infantry. And it's not that these guys are bad, it's just that they don't quite stack up to some of the stuff that came later. And that's pretty much Beastmen in a nutshell. So we're looking at Razor Gore Chariots getting minus 10 armor. Some people think that Kazrak is bad. I don't know why. Like, he's got 110 charge bonus on the Razor Gore. He's an absolute monster. He's one of the few lords I play with a lot that consistently gets over 100 kills. So Kazrak is definitely not bad, especially not when he got Vanguard. May not be the most competitively viable choice, but he's definitely good. For Bretonia, Green Knight getting more buffs. I believe last patch he got some of this stuff. He got Ignore Hit Chance knocked right back on up, and I think he's getting even more buffs here. So yeah, more of that hit reaction ignore chance, which is good. You get stun locked a lot in those SEM battles, single entity monster battles, in the duels. So the fact that he won't get staggered as much is pretty useful for a lord whose entire purpose, or hero whose entire purpose, is to outduel enemy scary monsters and lords and heroes. Alberic on foot, Virtue of Empathy. Man, it'd be so nice for Grail Vows or the virtues to get added into multiplayer, to essentially let Paladins, for example, spec to become better in bonus versus large, or spec to be better at buffing up peasants, so that if I decided to bring him on foot, for example, then he's going to buff up my peasants in a much better manner than if he was on a Hippogriff. I think that kind of stuff would be really cool, would really give them a much more unique and presentable way of gameplay. I mean, I just think that'd be a really nice change. I don't know if we'll be seeing any Bretonnia overhauls anytime soon, but I would like to. Blessed Field Trebuchet, no longer marked as high threat. Reduced radius of projectile to match regular trebuchets. So that's a nerf. Kind of weird. Not a unit I see that often. It did get buffed in the last patch in that the explosive damage on the Blessed Field Trebuchet wouldn't deal friendly fire damage. But what a lot of people didn't realize was that the projectile still would. So you could ravage your own cavalry with the projectile itself, just not with the explosive splash damage. But seems like the radius has been reduced. Not sure why. Paladin got an additional +8 bonus versus large. Okay. That's pretty big. That's effectively +8 weapon strength, which isn't much on a hero, but it is +8 melee attack as well when he's fighting large targets. So remember, when you're talking about bonus versus anything, whether it's infantry or large, if you have 8 of it, that translates to 8 more weapon damage and 8 more melee attack when fighting that particular target. So 8 more melee attack is a big chance to hit. Pretty good. Companion of Kunel. I'm not sure if that's a net buff, honestly. Bretonnia has a lot of ways to deal with regular cavalry. I mean, Grail Knights and Questing Knights and, I mean, even Grail Guardians. They can all deal well with enemy cav. +10 bonus versus large. They didn't have bonus versus large before. This is the ROR Questing Knight variant. They didn't have bonus versus large before, so +10 bonus versus large is good for sure. But is that worth 100 cost? I don't know. They were already expensive, and they were already good at blending enemy cavalry, too. I mean, this is a perfect unit to throw into Demigryph Knights. You don't want them taking the charge, but Questing Knights can trade really well into Empire cavalry, regardless of whether they have bonus versus large. So, I don't know if that's a net buff. It's better in combat, obviously, but it's more expensive. So, things to think about. Dark Elves. 35 missile block chance on that Cold One Chariot. Oh, okay. I was thinking of that as missile resist, but yeah, it's block chance, so that's not quite the same thing, but still really high. Dark Riders +3 leadership. Okay. More health per entity on Blackguard and Harganeth Executioners. We've not been seeing a lot of elite infantry for the Dark Elves, or really in the multiplayer meta at all. They're great in campaign, obviously, but in terms of multiplayer, the meta has long ago shifted away from elite tier infantry simply because they just get shot, they get kited. There's been such a rise of skirmish cavalry and skirmishing in general that these are more of a risk to bring. And I mean, if they get blown up by artillery or nuked by Fate of Buna, they don't generate much value. So they've been pretty niche for a while. It's good to see that they get more HP. I don't know how much this will do or how much that even translates to their overall health pool. But if you're talking, well, yeah, if you're talking 90 entities, so I guess it would probably be 360 HP, roughly, because it's 90 entities on large, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, that's not bad. But it's not massive. 360 HP is not that much, but it's not horrible. Okay, they throw their knives in combat. That's cool. Dwarfs added magical projectile on the Ghost Master Engineer for Clan Angrund. Dragonback Slayers, more expensive. Makes sense, they're really effing good. Flame Cannon, less cost, but they're so expensive. This is one of the most damaging artillery pieces in the game, but minus 50 isn't going to do a whole lot, simply because they're just so expensive and they can be hard to defend. I just don't see them a lot in multiplayer. Longbeards +50 cost. Okay. Organ Gun, projectile is 1.5 times as accurate. We'll be interested to see what that means, because accuracy doesn't matter that much if you're not focusing on the right target. One thing you'll often see with organ guns, again, they won't fire into the middle of the enemy formation. They'll often fire at the edges, at stuff that's already knocked down. So accuracy, again, does not matter if the unit is knocked down and you can't hurt them, and you're just firing into the void in the space where all those units were knocked down. So I would like to see them alternate more between the edge and the middle, so that they don't fire their second volley into the exact same spot where they just knock down a bunch of enemies. More range on rangers with great weapons. Althars, Okay. Halberdiers, -25 cost. Who cares, dude? Like, halberds suck, and they have for a long time. Low armor, not great melee stats. Yeah, they've got charge defense against everything, but no one's gonna charge into them from the front. They know what halberds do. I can't remember the last time I saw an Empire player bring halberds. They're just not good, so more will have to be done with them if they want to be made viable. Spearmen in general, plus 25 cost. I believe that is talking about the non-shielded variant, which is fair, because they're incredibly good at what they do. High melee defense, very cheap. War Wagons got plus 40 ammo and minus 50 cost. Probably not enough to make them viable competitively, but not horrible change. At least they're trying to buff them. Warrior Priest no longer has access to Scroll of Power, replaced with Scroll of Shielding. These guys make Demigryphs crazy good. So I'll see if more of those get changed as we move forward, but here, I don't know if that will make a huge impact on anything. Plus 7 melee defense on Imperial Pegasus, Foot, Warhorse, and Barded Warhorse. Only time you ever see Karl Franz really is when he's on Deathclaw, which makes sense. They're an iconic duo, but I mean, plus 7 melee defense is no joke. That's a huge chance to block incoming damage. For Greenskins, Orc Boarboy Big Guns, plus 15 armor. Significant there. Orc Warboss, plus 50 cost. A lot more AP melee damage, less base damage. And added Get Back here. I don't know what that does. I'll have to check that. But Orc Warbosses don't get brought very often. The only time I've seen that in a remotely competitive game in the last year is when Aerocrastic brought that against Lotus in that crazy Steam Tank game, and they were just playing for fun. So anything that buffs up Orc Warboss, I'm down with. Skarsnik, Get Back here. I need to know what that is. I don't know what that is. If anyone knows in the comment section, let me know. But I could Google that too. Google is your friend. Agtag the Slaughterer. Gonna get some more AP melee damage, but yeah, I think the Greenskins will get a lot more lovin' in the next patch with the Grim and the Grom, which will probably be, I imagine, what, February, March of next year? High Elves, Ithalmar Chariot, plus 50 armor, plus 50 cost. Ithalmar Chariot has been bad for a long time, just isn't good at what its role is supposed to be, doesn't have a lot of armor-piercing damage. Now it has plus 50 armor for plus 50 cost, that's pretty good. Plus 50 armor is no joke, that is a lot of armor. Will hopefully make them a little bit better, but they're still lacking in the armor piercing. So the Tyrannok Chariot is usually a lot more viable and something that people will be more likely to go for because you get a lot more versatility with that range attack. So plus 30 armor, plus 50 cost on the Tyrannok Chariots. So might be seeing a little bit more Tyrannok or Chariot play in general for the Yazur. Phoenix Guard got the same thing as Blackguard and Executioners. Same thing with Swordmasters of Hoeth. Dragon Princes, a little bit more AP. And yeah, Hand of the Shadow Crown, and who's it called? Oh my god. The White Lion Lord, Alistar the White Lion. He is also available in campaign, or custom battle, as a campaign exclusive unit. Now for the Children of the Old Ones, big nerf to Temple Guard, minus 5 leadership. I mean, their leadership is really high anyway, so I don't know if that will practically make a huge impact or not, but I mean, we've seen a lot of Death Stars with Croak and Temple Guard blobs. They can be incredibly good against Chaos and Norska in particular. So that's definitely a nerf to them. When you're talking about dropping in Doom and Darkness and all the leadership debuffs and Terror, I mean, yeah, that's going to be an issue for them a bit. So a bit of a nerf there. The Celadon, the Ark of Sotek, got a 33% damage increase, which is good because that unit is hot trash. Pocket Pot cohort, minus 1 melee attack. Razor Dawns, going to be hopefully more viable with this change. I mean, they probably got more issues than this, but one of their issues is that their line of sight is always blocked by something. So being able to fire over that a little bit more like the regular Salamander hunting pack should be good. Nakai the Wanderer, minus 100 cost. Nice, but he's still going to be... yeah, he's kind of garbage. He's kind of garbage in multiplayer. Which is weird, because you look at his stat line and he shouldn't be. But I don't know, he's just got a big hitbox. He just kind of ends up getting bullied a lot, and he's very expensive, so the minus 100 cost will help. Like, he's got 520 weapon strength, man. Like, he should be better. But, I don't know. Maybe that Perfect Vigor aura is too expensive. Maybe it doesn't do enough. Doesn't seem to do enough. I don't know, he just seems bad. Every time I've used him, every time I've seen people use him, competitively bad. I mean, you could definitely win with him, but he's just not a great Lord choice when you've got, I don't know, Slaanesh Mage Priest, Lore of Life, minus 150 MP cost. Lizardmen have a bunch of great Lord choices that are generic, so people typically go for those, and we've kind of seen Krotgar to an extent get phased out a bit. He's not bad, but been phased out a bit. Nakai just, yeah, he doesn't live up to a lot of their other choices. Marauder Chieftain, +2 run speed. Yeah, I believe his base speed before was like 32 or 34. It'll now go up to 36, which I think is what the rest of the Marauder infantry is, so he won't be slowing down his entire control group now if he's on foot. Marauder Chieftain, -10 armor, -50 cost. Wolfric, -20 armor, -100 cost. Marauder Chariot, wait, what? Oh, regular Marauder Chariot, okay. So doesn't make any sense. Ice Trolls, +4 melee defense, that's pretty huge. Normally, CA likes to go for the incremental changes, like +1, +2, -1, -2. +4 melee defense is pretty substantial. It's a big buff. More AP, more ammo, more projectile range for the throwing axes. Okay. Skaven. Death Runners got reworked. So way less entities, -28 entities, but they have more HP per entity now. They have less melee attack, more, and they have bonus versus infantry. I don't think, I'm trying to remember, did Death Runners have bonus versus infantry before this patch? They might have just been armor sundering bonus, or armor sundering and armor piercing. I don't remember. But either way, they have bonus versus infantry now. I think they did have bonus versus infantry. I think they just got more. But I'm probably wrong. I know Poison Wing Globadiers lost their bonus versus large, but they got a lot more AP, and now they have a direct damage contact effect that deals an aura over time. So I think it's over 8 or 10 seconds. It drains their HP, which makes sense when we talk about a poison cloud of noxious gas. There are a few biological weapons in Warhammer Fantasy that are nastier than a Poison Wind Globadier. Man, like, that is not a fun way to go. Lungs fill up with fluids, bubo sprouts all over you, and you just drown in your own guts, essentially. Not good. So, no longer bonus versus large, but drains life of enemies, and now it's kind of like a Deathglow Blight, which makes sense. Deathglow Bombardiers also buffed. Yeah, I'd say that's probably a net buff. 4 more ammo, you can get a lot work done with that. It's 4 more volleys. That's serious. In a matchup against dwarfs, who are already just taking a pound town in this, in this matchup, Skaven dwarfs was already not fun for dwarfs. It got worse with the addition of Clan Eshin, Deathmaster Snickich, and all his Death Runner buffs. Yeah, dwarfs are gonna struggle in this matchup for sure, but they're good in plenty of others. So that's just the nature of how asymmetrical balance works. Tomb Kings, a lot of changes here. Wow, a lot of changes. Sepulchral Stalkers completely reworked. Added stock to all of them. Love that change. So, before, they were called Stalkers and they didn't have stock. Explain how that makes sense. Their entire lore is they kind of move silently through the desert under the sands and then pop out and murder you. They weren't able to stock before. Now they will be invisible until within range. But their melee capabilities and their missile resist has been severely depleted. Worse melee attack interval, lower melee attack, lower bonus versus large. But now they deal much more damage from range. Much more damage. Plus 91 AP projectile damage, more base damage, much faster velocity, 4 times as accurate. So now they are kind of going to be used out on the flanks a bit more. And essentially, you're going to want to use all your ammunition. Before, their projectile was really bad, didn't do very much at all. Did nothing to single entities, did very little to enemy cav. Now it's going to be much more powerful, much more potent. So you're going to want to use all your ammunition, and you can kind of scoot and shoot out on the flanks, appear, retreat, then use that stock and reposition. I think this is going to be a much more interesting unit now. Viable? No idea. I haven't seen how much damage their ranged projectiles do now, but I think this is a cool change and nice rework to hopefully make them a bit stronger. Eyes of the Desert, same stuff. Necropolis Knights are weird. This is a strange change. It's not bad overall. Well, I'm not sure. I really don't know. I've used them a couple times now. The biggest thing that jumped out at me immediately was that they got plus 20 armor, so they went from 90 to 110, which is good, because Necropolis Knights, the 90 armor, they blew over to a stiff fort. Like a little breeze came through, whistling over the dunes, and they would just die immediately. So 110 armor makes them a lot tankier. They've got plus 12 health per entity now, which How much is that? They've got, I think, 18 entities on large. Nothing. It's like 200 health, right? Yeah, it's like 200 health. 200-ish. Okay, so not that much, but it's there. Their melee attack interval is worse, and they're now 200 cost more expensive. So they were 1300 and 1400. They're now 1500 and 1600 for the Halberd variant. Halberd variant 1600. Regular Necropolis Knights are 1500. So that's a... I don't know, dude. I don't know if this is a buff. I honestly don't know. See, Necropolis Knights were already kind of a niche unit. They're good as a backline sweeper, but you only want to bring maybe one of them. And even with 110 armor and 5400 HP, and they're still... I don't know if that plus 200 is worth it for the Tomb Kings. I think they could have gotten those buffs and just kept the price the same. I really do. Or maybe plus 50 cost, or maybe plus 75. Plus 200 seems like a lot. People don't bring them that often. 1600 for the Necropolis Knight Halberd variant with 32 melee attack and 32 melee defense. I don't know. I don't know if people are going to use them more now. I like that they're tankier. I think that's good, but the plus 200 cost is a lot. Tomb Scorpion minus 400 health I think is fair. This unit is crazy good for the price. It's why it was on my top units for Tomb Kings. Incredible. I think for a while it's been the best Tomb Kings unit. Casket of Souls projectiles are 2.5 times more accurate now. Okay. And same with, yeah, okay. I don't think you'll see people bringing Casket of Souls by itself, but with Katep, who's not a bad lord, this could be a big buff. Some changes to armor. Oh, Skeleton Chariots, plus 30 armor, but plus 100 multiplayer cost. Okay. Necrotech plus 50 cost. Necrotechs are really good, so that's probably reasonable. Alright. Interesting. Scurvy Dogs, plus 4 charge bonus, plus 2 melee defense, plus 50 cost. Scurvy Dogs are amazing for the price. Now they'll be 500 instead of 450, I think. So I think that's fair. And they're better now. I mean, plus 2 melee defense is huge. Plus 4 charge bonus is pretty big too. Depth Guard, they have more melee defense. I like that, because Depth Guard halberds are absolute trash. Hot trash. So anything that buffs them up without raising their cost is good. Deck Droppers, getting a lot of changes. The Bombers, ooh. Plus 4, okay. Less ammo. A lot more AP. Don't know if that'll make them viable, but maybe worth trying out now. Shade Wraith Gunners. Oh, Rotting Leviathan. I missed that one. That's huge. Big Alaskan King Crab. Plus 15 bonus versus infantry and more splash attack targets. That's a straight buff for a unit that's already not that bad. And Silastra gets it too. Okay, we're definitely trying that out. The big angry crab gonna get plus 15 melee attack when fighting infantry. Cool change. Luther Harkin on foot. Big buff to his... Yeah, I like this because people only bring him on his Terrorgeist. So anything that makes people maybe want to bring him on foot a bit more, I think that's good. And then the damn Paladin also getting plus 8 bonus for storage, but on his Terrorgeist more expensive now. Okay, I think that's fair. Vampire counts. A lot of changes. Black Coach. Plus 1,000 mass. Pretty sure that's substantial. Not sure exactly how the mass thing works, but I'm pretty sure 1,000 mass is substantial. So they'll be better at cycle charging, better at getting out of combat. Hex Race are buffed. More melee defense. More melee damage. Karen Race. Plus 6 melee defense. That's no joke. So Ethereals. Getting a bit of a buff. Now if only they could fix the fact that their corpses stay on the ground after they're dead when they're ghosts. That would be a good change too. They need that. That's a big quality of life buff. And I'm still waiting for the day that Ethereals get a complete rework and that they can move through walls or phase through units for a short amount of time. I'd really like to see that. Black Knights have bonus versus infantry. That is new. Cool. Graveguard plus 100 cost. Net buff, probably, maybe. So, yeah, one of the issues vampire counts have been dealing with recently is that Graveguard in general have kind of been phased out a bit. People just like going for like zombie hordes and then just spending all their money on the monsters and the support. Hopefully this will mean that people like bringing... This is definitely a net buff, because this is only plus 50 cost for them. More bonus for infantry. Yeah, the Graveguard Great Weapons definitely needed some help. So, I don't know if this is overall complete buff, because the plus 100 cost means they're 850 now instead of 750, which is a big change for them. But this is definitely pretty good. Sternsman, same thing. Banshee, plus 8 melee attack. Yeah, Ethereal's all getting reworked a bit. And this is nice, because vampire counts have been nerfed, like, patch after patch after patch for many moons now. So, to see them get a little bit of love is nice. Crypt Horrors, they aren't going to be what they used to be in Game 1 when they were complete terrors in the night, but plus 3 melee attack is a good way to start getting them back up to snuff. And then for the Warriors of Chaos, 10 armor. Corby's Chariot 10 armor. None of them are getting price increases. This is all just straight buffs for them. And I think a lot of people have felt like Chaos kind of got phased out over the last couple patches, so... Manticore minus 100, minus 200 cost on the Exalted Hero. Okay. Give him some AP and we might be talking. Need some more AP, I think. On foot, yeah. No, those are good changes. Chaos Lord, Chaos Spawn, yeah, okay. Archaon now marked as high threat. Yeah, that stuff doesn't matter. Alright, for spells and abilities. Let me do a quick read through and then I'll recap what's actually exciting. Okay, so attack or die, stand your ground, abilities like those ones that buff melee attack or melee defense, they're going to be a little bit less effective, but the ones that increase AP damage, like Deadly Onslaught, those are getting buffed by 20%. So some of those might be more worth it. I think a lot of people end up cutting stuff like Deadly Onslaught, thinking it wasn't worth it before. Don't know if this will quite bring it up to snuff, but 20% buff is no joke, so that's interesting. There has been a rework for summons, so we're talking the ones for the Ishka's Triads that are coming with the Eshin update, and Alathanar. Any of the ones that summon clones, now you can't tell which one is which looking at their unit card, which is cool. They are a lot more challenging to tell which one is which, and though they won't deal any damage, and they are still unbreakable, they still have perfect vigor, but you can't look at the unit card and it won't say, oh, this thing's unbreakable now. So you can't just like mouse over and be like, oh, I know which one's which. I think that's a great change, because what's the point of a clone if someone who's intelligent can just mouse over and be like, well, I know what's happening here. So I like that a lot. It's big. I mean, you shouldn't be able to zone in on Alathanar right away. His clone should do what it's intended to do. Now, there are some good changes here. Rod of Corruption, for example, is now capped. So before, you could cap that as many times as you wanted. The only limiting factor was cooldown, which, to be fair, I mean, it's still a limiting factor, but in the longer battles, you could see, I mean, Lord Skrolk, he's a dirty lord. He's incredibly good. I think this is a needed nerf for him to hopefully start seeing other lords. I mean, I would like to start seeing Queek more often, for example. I would like to be seeing Deathmaster Snickich when he comes in. So anything that brings Skrolk a little bit more in line is good. I imagine that's also transferring to campaign as well, but could just be a multiplayer thing. Warp bombs don't even exist in multiplayer, so yeah, this is also a campaign change too. Let's see. Is there anything that's actually super interesting here? I think this doesn't effectively change anything. I think this is just changing how the stats are shown rather than a net buff or nerf. Is there anything really interesting going on? I mean, there have been a couple changes to Warp Lightning and Piercing Bolts of Burning. They'll deal more damage now. Warp Lightning has always been really good. Piercing Bolts of Burning, no one ever uses a spell, so hopefully that's enough to make it viable. The Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, okay. Deserved, for sure. How long did the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin work before? Like 30 seconds? So maybe it'll be more like 22, 24 now, something like that. It was pretty busted, I'm not gonna lie. For a Rune Lord that costs like 1200, you don't bring him on his Anvil of Doom. Which, by the way, I would really like it if CA gave us a reason to bring the Anvil of Doom. There's no reason, people just bring him on foot now. Like, give him a damaging rune that, like, summons lightning or some kind of bound vortex or something. Rune Lords still need help for sure, but they're incredibly good at what they do. But they're not really used the way they're meant to be used in tabletop or the lore, so they could use some more loving. But yeah, they've been nerfed a bit because these abilities were pretty crazy. People might not like dwarf nerfs, but those kind of things, I don't know. A 35-second snare or whatever it was, it's just insane when you're talking like 1 or 2 Rune Lords and Rune Smiths all combined together in one. Okay. Yeah, they could use some more damaging abilities though, things that actually deal damage to their opponent. That is the patch notes for the Shadow and the Blade. There are some really good quality of life changes coming in this update. I think the biggest one, the highlight for me, are the Mortal Empire's turn time reductions. When you hit that end turn button, going from 50 seconds, a minute plus, to 30 seconds to 20 seconds, God forbid 15 seconds if you're rocking the right kind of equipment for it. It's a godsend, dude. It's going to make a lot of people jump back into Mortal Empires, and more of that's going to be coming in Total War Warhammer 3, more of those optimizations, so that has me incredibly hype. Overall, maybe not as many multiplayer and battle changes as I would like to see. For one, I would love a huge balance pass from Creative Assembly going through and changing a lot of the items for the Lords. There are a lot of really bad items that need some loving, and there are a lot of great ones that need a little bit of tweaking here and there. But for the most part, there are, yeah, I would really like to see CA go through and fix some of the bad items that never get used. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is a great patch for sure. Exciting to see all the changes come in. I'm sure I missed some of them. Let me know when you guys have gotten a chance to read through. I'll leave the blog post in the pinned comment and description. Read through it. Let me know what your most anticipated changes are besides the obvious end turn time reduction. And hope you guys are excited, because this week, you all are gonna get your hands on the Shadow and the Blade. And it'll be Deathmaster Snickage versus Malice Darkblade coming to Total War Warhammer 2. Get hype. I'll see you guys next time. Indie Pride, signing out for now.